The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Now, good evening, one and all. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, where today it was a balmy 60 degrees outside. And I'll tell you, thank heavens. According to meteorologists, and I've said this before, this was the gloomiest winter on record. So I am so happy to see it go. And my wife was saying, honey, it's going to rain tomorrow. Well, yeah, it rains tomorrow because what's the old saying? April showers bring May flowers. So I'm ready for those flowers, and I don't mind a little bit of rain. It sure as heck beats the winter, snow, ice, and sleet. Today is, let me see, April the 4th in the year 2023, a historic day in the United States because President Donald J. Trump, former president, I should say, was indicted on 34 counts by the district attorney of Manhattan. So it's going to be a very interesting next couple of months until the middle, I believe it's November 2024 when they have the next presidential election. So a lot to look forward to. And as I was telling my wife at supper time, hey, this is going to be better than the O.J. Simpson trial. Yeah. And you know, it's funny how things work out because my first guest tonight is a gentleman by the name of Hal Marcovitz. And he lives in the beautiful state of Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. And we're going to be talking about funny stories about the White House, the presidents, and their families. Talk about coincidence and synchronicities. Let's bring our good friend on. And Hal, welcome to the X Zone. Thanks very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
You must be psychic because you booked the exact date of the indictment. How did you do it? I want to know. I want to know what the winning lottery numbers are. Come on, Hal, you can do it.
Well, if I figure it out, I'll let you know, and we'll cash in together. So,
that sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was a newspaper reporter for about 30 years, and I covered a lot of politicians, and kind of got an insight into the kind of the goofy things that they do, and that led me to write a novel. Painting the White House, which is about an ordinary house painter who gets the job to paint the interior of the White House. So once he gets inside and gets involved and puts down his drop cloths and gets his cans of paint open and gets his brushes out, he finds himself entangled with all the mysterious, goofy, and otherwise weird stuff that goes on in the White House. And that's kind of the story.
Wow. First of all, you're a reporter. I'm not going to hold that against you. I happen to like reporters. I think that journalism is a very important part of society, and so thank you for the work that you've done as a reporter.
Well, thank you.
And the integrity that people like you, the professionalism that brings the integrity into the business.
Well, thank you.
Why the White House? What was your fascination with the White House? Why did you? You know, I understand that you did a lot as a reporter with politics. Was that kind of the story behind the story of why the White House?
Well, I mean, if you want to see where the center of the political world is, it's of course the White House, where the president lives and works. And once I started, again, the book is a novel, it's fiction. Right. But once I started researching it, I wanted to portray the White House and the characters as accurately as possible. So I did some really hard research, and it didn't take long before I started coming up with some really kind of goofy stuff that actually happened there. Some weird and strange and actually funny stuff that happened there. I kind of tried to weave that into the story, but mostly, you don't have to look too hard to find it. It's there.
So they're just ordinary people like you and I who have the little faux pas in life that we all have.
Well, kind of big faux pas, I would say.
Oh, I wasn't talking about today's today's faux pas in
Yes.
Manhattan. What's your favorite story about the White House when it comes to the faux pas?
You know, I mean, I have like a dozen favorite stories.
Well, you
but,
can tell us each and every one of them.
But the one that kind of always like stood out to me, and it was actually one of the first ones that I came across, involves Elvis Presley.
Really?
This goes back to 1970, I believe. And Richard Nixon was in the White House talking about lawbreakers, if you will. Richard Nixon was in the White House, and Elvis Presley was something of a police buff. And he collected badges and belt buckles and patches and that sort of thing from police departments. He had a collection. So he gets his eye is on a badge for the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, and he wants the DEA badge. So he makes some inquiries, and he learns that the only way he can get a DEA badge is if he becomes a agent of the DEA. Mm-hmm. And well, of course, the king of rock and roll isn't going to, give up his career for, a federal job, a job in the federal bureaucracy. So he decides he's going to get himself sworn in as an honorary agent of the DEA. So he calls together his team, his guys down there in Memphis, and he says, "We're going to go to the White House today, and I'm going to ask President Nixon to swear me in as the honorary agent of the DEA." So they all jump into a plane and they fly up to Washington and they hire a limo and they drive right up to the White House, and Elvis gets out of the limo and he's in one of his, jumpsuits with the cape and he goes up to the guard and he tells him he's Elvis Presley and he's there to get sworn in as an agent of the DEA. Well, the guard has no idea what's going on. So he calls into the White House and he tells them he's got Elvis Presley at the gate, and what does he do? So they kick this around in the White House for a little while, and they have meetings and they figure it out, and they decide, you know what, let's do this. Let's swear in Elvis as a DEA agent. We'll get his picture taken with Nixon, and this will be a terrific, piece of publicity for the president. So they find some time in Nixon's schedule,
right?
And they bring Elvis into the White House. And Nixon swears him in as an honorary agent of the DEA. And Elvis has brought a gift into the White House to give to Nixon. And he pulls it out in the Oval Office, and it turns out to be a gun. He actually brings a gun into the Oval Office. So
wait a minute. Elvis Presley was able to bypass the Secret Service at the gate, as well as Secret Service going in, and actually goes into the president off the Oval Office with a weapon.
With a gun, right.
Oh, my God.
And it was okay. It wasn't loaded, and everything is cool. Okay. And Nixon gives him the badge, and everybody's happy. And the photo, they do take the photo, and it ran in all the magazines, and that photo is the #1 selling souvenir at the Nixon Library in California to this day. But the funniest postscript about this is after Elvis leaves, Nixon turns to his staff and he says, "Who was that guy?
Are you serious?"
He really didn't know who he was.
Oh my heavens!
I don't know. Was he really?
I wonder if any of the secret agents that go in, and Elvis has left the building.
I don't think they came up with that one yet. So, Nixon was soon to leave the building himself, though. So.
Yeah, I would have imagined that the #1 selling item at the Nixon Library would have been little pieces of tape that mysteriously disappeared from the White House. That is something, though.
I think people are still looking for those.
Yeah. How about something? I understand that there's something involving Florence Harding.
Florence Harding, the first lady, her spouse was Warren G. Harding. This goes back, I guess, to the 1920s. She was kind of a strange occupant of the White House. She would bring a fortune teller into the White House every week for regular sessions to help guide her in her duties as First Lady. Mm-hmm. She would also invite reporters into the White House and give interviews. And apparently at some very weird times, because they would often find her in the presidential bedroom and she was still dressed in her negligee. And she would do interviews in bed to the White House press corps.
She any relation to Stormy Daniels? No way. Okay.
Not that I know of.
Oh, wow. Betsy Donahue. What role did she play in the construction of the White House?
This goes back again. Well, it goes back to before the White House was built. The White House was designed by an architect named James Hoban, who won a competition. And in fact, he beat Thomas Jefferson, who had submitted his own design for the White House. So James Hoban gets the job of designing and overseeing the construction of the White House. And Hoban really takes this seriously and wants this to be a perfect job. So he decides he's going to oversee the construction of the White House 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So he has a cottage built for himself on the grounds of the White House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And he moves into the cottage and he lives there day in, day out for months. And at one point, Hoban decides the job is far enough along and he doesn't have to live there anymore. And he can just move back home and oversee the work in that regard. So he moves out of the cottage and he rents the cottage to a carpenter named Donahue and his wife, Betsy. The Donahues move in, and it doesn't take long, but the authorities at the time discover that Betsy Donahue is running a brothel out of the cottage. So the first unofficial use of the White House was...
Talk about a cottage industry.
The Donahues were kicked out.
Oh, my gosh. Only in Washington, I guess. Hal, you and I have to take a short break. Please stand by. XO Nation, our guest this hour, bringing light and merriment to a well-deserved day for you here in the XO Nation and around the world. Hal Marcovitz is his name, and the website is paintingthewhitehouse.org. And we'll both be back after this very short break. Whatever you do, don't go away.
Question: what is the name of the unique blend of coffee you get that has been formulated by a neurologist, a neurobiologist, and a pharmaceutical chemist? Answer: you get Beautiful Mind Coffee, a unique coffee blend that tastes great and has herbal ingredients that your brain will love, and it is not just coffee, it's brainalicious. Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, the scientific team that created Beautiful Mind Coffee, decided to collaborate on a coffee focusing on brain health. As for those herbal ingredients found in Beautiful Mind Coffee, Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, utilizing their combined extensive scientific research background, worked with many natural and herbal products until the exact formulation that is found in Beautiful Mind Coffee was created. With a unique scientific formula not found in any other coffee being sold or served, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Every cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee contains scientifically formulated amounts of maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng, all supporting good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older. just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Did you know that cognitive dysfunction also refers to deficits in attention, verbal and nonverbal learning, short-term and working memory, visual and auditory processing, problem-solving, processing speed, and motor functioning? For more on Beautiful Mind Coffee, the 3 scientists who formulated Beautiful Mind Coffee, and more details on the 3 unique herbal ingredients in Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available online at amazon.ca and amazon.com. To order Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca today.
And welcome back, everyone. Oh my gosh, I'm still getting over the cottage in the back that was used as a brothel. The White House. My Lord, cottage industry #1. The first lady was in the White House, and the first madame was in the cottage, I guess. Hal Marcovitz is our special guest, Exo Nation. The website is paintingthewhitehouse.org. And Mark, thanks very much for bringing laughter and smiles to the members of the Exo Nation around the world.
My pleasure.
I understand the Secret Service had a very, very intense investigation when somebody stole the president's underwear.
I don't think the Secret Service got involved. I'm not sure there was a Secret Service then, but this happened during the War of 1812, and the president at the time was President Madison. And what happened was the city of Washington was invaded by the British, which is well known in history.
Yeah.
So the city was evacuated, and of course the White House was evacuated, and the president and his family were escorted out of the city for their own protection. Mm-hmm. So the city is empty, and the British come in, and they decide they're going to go see what's going on in the White House. So about 120, I believe, British sailors entered the White House, and they found vacant, and they traipsed around the place, and a few of them found their way into President Madison's bedroom, where they found his underwear, and they stole it. I guess for that long voyage back to England, there weren't too many laundry facilities on those boats in those days, and clean underwear was at a premium. So they stole his underwear, and then they burned down the White House.
I guess they couldn't find the cottage, so the White House was the next best thing, huh?
Betsy was already out of business.
Oh, and I understand that President Herbert Hoover and First Lady Lou Henry treated the White House staff rather strange.
Yes, the Hoovers regarded the White House as their home, which I guess they had every right in the world to do, and they valued their privacy. And they didn't like to encounter members of the domestic staff around the White House. They didn't want to be, seeing the housekeepers, the cooks, the butlers, the valets, whomever had those jobs. The Hoovers just wanted to be by themselves. So they had every member of the domestic staff issued a little bell. And they domestic workers, the staff, was under orders that if they saw the Hoovers approaching in a hallway or something like that, they were to ring these little bells, and that would signal everybody in the vicinity to hide in a closet, under the stairs, whatever. And that's what happened. All these little bells would ring, and everybody would hide because the Hoovers were coming down the hallway. So several decades later, in the 1990s, the Clintons moved into the White House.
Right.
And Hillary Clinton is the first lady at the time, and she's walking down the hallway of, in the White House, and she sees a couple of the housekeepers dart across the hallway and hide in the closet. And she walks up to the closet, and she opens the door, and she says, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And they told her that when they see a member of the president's family, they're under orders to hide. And Hillary said, "Well, you don't have to do that." And apparently the bells went out of fashion at some point, but the staff was still under orders to hide when they saw a member of the president's family.
Talking about skeletons in the closet, eh? Now, this one really has me. What branch of government is responsible for catching the mice that occasionally inhabit the White House? Don't they just call 1-800-CATCH-THE-MOUSE?
Well, the question is, what branch of government is responsible for catching the mice that occasionally inhabit the White House?
Yeah.
And the answer was uncovered by President Jimmy Carter back in the 1970s. And what happened was that Carter is sitting in the Oval Office very early in his presidency, and he notices a rather noxious odor coming from somewhere. And he quickly concludes that a mouse must have died in a wall of the Oval Office. So Carter orders his staff to get rid of the mouse. So the staff calls the General Services Administration and asks them to get rid of the mouse. And the General Services Administration says, "We're very sorry, but our job only requires us to maintain the White House inside the walls." Okay. They call the National Park Service. And the National Park Service responds, "We're very sorry, we can't do that. Our job requires us to maintain the White House outside the walls." So the answer as to who is responsible for getting rid of the mice that inhabit the White House is apparently no federal agency is responsible for that. They did get rid of the mouse, but history does not record exactly how Carter was able to pull that off.
Oh, yeah. Why didn't they just call the Pentagon? They like blowing up stuff, and they would have got rid of the mouse and everything else around it. Mind you, with Jimmy Carter, it could have been a bag of peanuts that went bad. Who knows?
All right.
Can you talk about some of the unusual ways the White House bunker has been employed over the years, including its use to screen pornographic movies during the Nixon administration?
Yes, that actually. But the bunker goes back to the 1940s when we were at war, and the military was concerned that either the Germans or the Japanese would develop planes that could stay in the air long enough to cross the Atlantic or the Pacific and bomb the White House.
Yeah.
So they built a bunker under the White House, and no one ever bombed the White House. So the bunker was really never used for its intended purpose. It was always down there and just never used. Well, what happens is Nixon becomes president some years later. And if you recall, Nixon's daughter, Julie, was married in the White House.
Yes.
In a very elaborate kind of event that was absolutely a perfect wedding from all accounts. Made all the magazine covers and it was in the newspapers, and everybody had a great time, and Nixon loved it. However, what happened is it came to the attention of the chief of staff, H.R. Haldeman, if that name means anything. He would eventually end up in jail, but that's another story. It came to the attention of H.R. Haldeman that a pornographic film producer had made a movie, kind of a spoof of the Nixon wedding. And it was a pornographic film starring transgender actors. And Haldeman is livid about this. And he calls the staff in and he says, "This is terrible. This is we can't allow this. We have to put a stop to this. We don't want to see this movie get out there. And he assigns staff members to go find the movie. Now, you remember, this is back in the 70s, and there were no VHS tapes or DVDs or things like that. So
Right.
they have to actually find the film, and they do. They take some detective work, but they uncovered a copy of this movie. At which point, the staff retreated down to the bunker to watch the movie, and they did. And one of the staff members who was told to watch the movie was John Dean, the White House counsel, another name of infamy. And at the end of the movie, Dean stands up and he says, well, okay, I agree with everyone. This is really in poor taste, but we do have a First Amendment in this country, and I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do about it. And they kind of just let the matter drop, and the movie really never got to be that popular anyway.
So before Watergate, these guys were the White House Siskel and Ebert.
I guess so, yes.
Yeah. It sounds like the White House has been tied to questionable smut. For the cottage, right? and then we go to the underwear part, and then we go to the pornography in the bunker. I'm still waiting for Stormy Daniels to come in and Monica Lewinsky, and oh my God, all it proves is that these people are human.
I guess so. Yes,
Yeah.
That's true.
What was the first official change in the operation of the White House authorized by Joe and Jill Biden?
This happened the morning that Joe Biden was sworn in as president, January of 2021.
Right.
And as we know, he was taking the place of President Trump. Now, as we know, that Trump was in the hotel business.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after the Trumps moved in, Trump appointed a fellow named, I believe it was James Harlan, as what's known as the chief usher in the White House. And the chief usher's job is to run the White House, to make sure the place is clean, the linens are clean, the laundry's done.
So he's like the executive housekeeper in a hotel.
Right. And that's where
Okay.
Trump found him. He was working for Trump in one of his hotels.
Right.
And he appointed Harlan as the chief usher. And from all indications, Harlan did a fine job. I mean, the White House was clean, and
Right.
the dishes were done, and all that happened.
Mhm.
So the Bidens are getting ready to move in. And 1 hour before the inauguration of Joe Biden as president,
Mhm.
Harlan gets a phone call telling him he's been fired and to get out of the White House.
Nice people.
Well, Biden didn't want anything to do with Trump. He even employed a guy who kept the dishes clean.
My good God. Looks like he's not through with Trump yet.
I guess there's a lot more dishes to get clean.
Dirty dishes at that, not to mention dirty laundry.
I presume that's going to come out.
Al, please stand by. You and I have to take our break at the bottom of the hour. Fascinating conversation. And thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Painting the White House.org is the website. And Hal and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studio in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, Mr. X at xzoneradiotv.com. And you can listen to all the past shows of the entire X Zone broadcast network with our compliments simply by going to www.xzbn.net. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away. And welcome back. Hal Marcovitz is our special guest. And Hal, I understand that you have written, if I'm not mistaken, you're the author of more than 200 nonfiction books written for the school library market. 200.
Yeah, that's true. These books are, I started writing them in the 1990s while I was still working for my newspaper. And I got so busy with it, I was able to leave my newspaper and just do that full time, which was kind of a good thing to happen because we all know what happened to newspapers.
Yeah.
These books are written for 7th, 8th, 9th graders. They're target specific topics, nonfiction.
Such as?
I just wrote a couple books over the winter. One is on Japanese animation, known as anime.
Yeah.
It kind of gives the history of it, the techniques, the style, the stories, everything a kid would want to know about anime, the culture, topics like that. The other book was on supernatural topics, witchcraft, fortune telling, ESP, ghosts, topics like that. So the books are kind of written with the idea that if a kid needs to write a book report, this is, they would go into the school library and find a book on a topic that interests them, and be able to write a book report about a book written just for them.
Well, when I was going to high school and college, we used Cole's Notes. Where did the love for writing come from?
Oh, I've been writing, I would say since I was a teenager.
Wow.
I grew up in Philadelphia and attended, public schools, and kind of just always had an interest in English and writing and authors, and kind of led me into journalism.
Where do you see libraries in the future? Are we going to be seeing the old hardcover book copies, the index cards, or are we going to be seeing more and more digital overtake?
The public libraries in my neighborhood where I live are much different than they were, a generation ago, 25 years ago, whatever. There's far fewer books. And when I say books, I mean, books. Books you hold on your hand. Okay.
Right.
They have every ebook you can imagine available with just a few keystrokes. And they have networks of libraries where they make each other's ebooks available to one another. And I think that's the trend, and that's where it's heading. I always enjoyed kind of holding it and like turning the page with my finger and doing it that way.
I understand that, and I certainly appreciate that. I thought print copy of the newspapers were going to make a comeback, but I
don't see it happening.
No. You see everybody in the trains or in the bus on the way from St. Catharines, Niagara to Toronto, and what used to be held in their hands as newspapers now is an iPhone in one hand and a coffee from Starbucks in the other.
That's pretty true.
Yeah. Do you think that it is more advantageous for the student to have everything at their fingertips instead of, like we used to do, go to the library and do the actual research?
I would rather see it taught the old way.
Yeah.
As you said, because it makes the student work. It makes the student actually dive into whatever topic they're researching. And just to, type a few keywords into Google, it just doesn't seem to make it for me. And now even with the chat AI software, even making it easier for them to do research and to produce, scholarly work, if you will. It's kind of sad to see it heading that way, and I really hope the schools stay on top of it and figure out how to keep the kids focused on real research.
Exactly. I think the loss of appreciation for the way that research used to be done when you were doing a report or a thesis, where you actually had to spend hours actually doing the research, it gave, I don't know about anybody else, but it gave me a deeper appreciation of the work of, like you said, the people who did the actual work, and it made you want to do better so that you could actually honor them, kind of.
Well, as a reporter, it was also a big part of my job to walk into a courthouse or another, government building and dive into the records and, develop stories through documents and public records and things of that nature. And I'm not sure that many journalists know how to do that anymore.
Yeah. And there was a lot more credibility in the reporting.
Yes, absolutely.
Then I'd even go 10 years ago than there is today. And especially with the type of information or misinformation or fake news that is out there.
I think one thing that really bothers me is pick up a paper. I mean, read the news and see the reporters are pulling quotes off of Twitter or other social media.
Yeah.
The subject of a story may be quoted from what the reporter finds on social media, and they're pulling that quote off of Twitter and using it. Well, like when I did it, I used to have to call the person up and interview them and get the quotes that way. And, it's a funny thing though, when you ask questions of a politician or somebody of that nature, you may get answers that person didn't expect to give you. And just pulling a quote off of Twitter is not the way to do it. It's call up that newsmaker and you ask questions, and perhaps they might tell you something they didn't expect to tell you, and you have a better story.
I find a big change ever since the mega media conglomerates have taken over the different print outlets as well as radio outlets and TV outlets. My God, right now, for example, I think we have over 600 channels that we have access to at home, and that's crazy in my opinion. It keeps the wife happy, but 600 channels. Do we need all this media? Do we need to be fed news 724, 365? Or in your opinion, is information overload on a personal level real?
Again, I mean, I favored the news that gets printed on paper, and by professional journalists, and they, every afternoon at every newspaper I worked at, and I worked at 3 of them, a group of editors would sit around a table and decide what the most important stories are and where to put them in the paper. And these were professionals with years in the business, knowing what type of information people valued and how to present it to readers. And now I think you're right. There is such information overload that it's all out there, and nobody's really kind of marshaling it in perhaps the fashion it needs to be marshaled.
Yeah.
To help people understand what's going on and how to absorb that news.
I agree with you 100%. And you and I have to take our final break. Hal Marcovitz is our guest. paintingthewhitehouse.org is his website. We'll be back as we wrap up this segment here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
First of all, Hal, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. Great pleasure talking to you. And the world changes. And is this just a temporary change that we're looking at the way the media is? Like, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, I remember as a kid, I used to wait for the Saturday edition of the newspaper to come because it had the funnies in it. My dad used to read the front section of the news. My mom would read a certain other section. My brother would read the sports. There was a lot of family time spent with print material, and as I watch my grandchildren now and my great grandchildren, they're using their iPhones and they're using this, that, and the other thing. And it's really sad when you go to a restaurant and you see families sitting at the table and they're not talking to each other. They're just on their iPhones. In fact, I nearly lost it when I found out that my sister-in-law uses, MSN chat to call her family in the same house, the supper table. In your opinion, as a hardcore journalist, as an author, where do you see the next generation of media going? Like, I'm trying to figure this out, and I can't figure it.
Well, I don't see it going back to paper.
No.
It's just not a business model that works anymore.
Oh, hell no.
For numerous reasons. It's
cost.
Going to, yes, it's, cost and lack of advertising, the cost of delivering the paper is a lot more expensive. So, you're probably going to have a handful of actual newspapers like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Times, papers like that. They'll probably be around the longest. In 50 years, who knows? But certainly, I would expect them to be around for several more years at least. As for all the others, I don't see print lasting that much longer. It's going to go digital, and it already is digital, of course. The question is, as you've said, is it going to continue to be this waterfall or landslide of news hitting people in the face every day, or is there going to be some way to organize it so people can see the real from the fake, if you will? Who knows? I certainly hope they figure it out.
Hal, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on your book. Congratulations on the over 200 books that you've published. And when you were saying over the winter you wrote a couple of books, I'm saying, holy cow, doesn't this guy sleep?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, glad to hear it. Listen, what are your final thoughts for the members of the X Zone Nation tonight?
Well, as far as the White House and the presidents and the stories we've told tonight, it shows they're human.
Yeah.
One story I wanted to get to, and I guess we ran out of time, but
please quickly. Go ahead.
President Trump is not the first president to have been charged with a crime.
Seriously.
Back in the 1870s, Ulysses S. Grant liked to take his horse and buggy out of the White House and trotted around the streets, and he liked to go fast, and it was sort of like the demolition derby with him. I think he went and he caught the attention of a police officer who was on horseback and caught up with him and said, "Mr. President, you have to slow down. This is dangerous." And Grant kind of said, "Well, okay, And the next night, that same police officer was on his horse, and who zooms by him but Ulysses S. Grant in his horse and buggy. So the police officer catches up to him and arrests the president for speeding. And they take him into the police station, and they fined him $20.
Wow.
And they sent him to it. And they told him not to ride his horse and buggy around Washington anymore.
So even back then, in the time of President Ulysses Grant, there was a lot of horsing around in Washington.
Yes, there was. Yes, there was.
I often wonder, Nixon just missed criminal prosecution by the skin of his teeth.
Well, of course. He was clearly in the sights of federal prosecutors. John Dean, who we talked about before, there was a very good book about Watergate published about a year ago. It was a new history of Watergate, and it included a story after Dean had pleaded guilty and was awaiting sentencing. One of the Watergate prosecutors saw him in a restaurant and walked up to him and said, "Well, John, we got him on the break-in, we got him on the cover-up, we got him on the plumbers, all this stuff. Is there anything we should look at?" And Dean said, "Yeah, look at his taxes." So they did a deep dive into Nixon's taxes, and they found out that he had created a foundation to establish the Nixon Library, and which is common. And after his term in office ended, he was going to build a library, and he established this foundation to do it. But they saw that he had provided this foundation with all his records prior to his term in the White House. When he was a member of Congress, the Senate, whatever, he had tons of written records from his years in Congress. And he donated these records to this foundation, and he took a tax deduction of something like $500,000 for giving all this paperwork. Cow. So they were preparing a tax evasion charge against Nixon when he resigned, and Ford pardoned him, and the charge never came up.
So there's a parallel between Nixon and Al Capone.
Perhaps.
Tax evasion. Yes. Hal, thank you so much for joining us. Do me a favor, when you write your next book, please let us know. We'd love to have you back on the show again.
All right. Thank you very much.
Take care. Be safe, my friend. Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about our guest this hour, Mr. Hal Marcovitz, visit his website. You ready for this? paintingthewhitehouse.org. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break in the news at about 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
Question: what is the name of the unique blend of coffee you get that has been formulated by a neurologist, a neurobiologist, and a pharmaceutical chemist? Answer: you get Beautiful Mind Coffee, a unique coffee blend that tastes great and has herbal ingredients that your brain will love, and it is not just coffee, it's brainalicious. Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Chang, and Dr. Winslow the scientific team that created Beautiful Mind Coffee decided to collaborate on a coffee focusing on brain health. As for those herbal ingredients found in Beautiful Mind Coffee, Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, utilizing their combined extensive scientific research background, worked with many natural and herbal products until the exact formulation that is found in Beautiful Mind Coffee was created. With a unique scientific formula not found in any other coffee being sold or served, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Every cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee contains scientifically formulated amounts of maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng, all supporting good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older, just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Did you know that cognitive dysfunction also refers to deficits in attention, verbal and nonverbal learning, short-term and working memory, visual and auditory processing, problem-solving, processing speed, and motor functioning? For more on Beautiful Mind Coffee, the 3 scientists who formulated Beautiful Mind Coffee, and more details on the 3 unique herbal ingredients in Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available online at amazon.ca and amazon.com. To order Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca today.